Hi, it's Ronald the Rules Lawyer. My low effort arc on my channel continues, and I'm going to do a top 5 video of all things on the most amazing spells in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I'm highlighting these for their wow factor and also the interesting decisions they can create for spellcasters in the game. A number of them showcase the 3-action economy and also the 4 degrees of success that Pathfinder 2e is known for. And I think they showed the creativity and care that the Paizo design team put into their game. First, to introduce myself, I am Ronald the Rules Lawyer. I am a lawyer who runs tabletop role-playing games. My preferred system is Pathfinder 2e. I also ran an after-school middle school class for several years, and I love teaching and educating on my channel. Support my Patreon if you haven't yet. I do not make money as an attorney. For more info on why, see the video whose thumbnail is on the screen. Supporting my Patreon gives you ad-free early access to many of my videos and exclusive content. So first I want to highlight that most of the spells I'm going to talk about today come from the Secrets of Magic book. It's a splat book for Pathfinder 2e that introduces the Magus and the Summoner, and has a lot of spells. I recall a lot of the more interesting spells coming from this book in particular. I will now talk about the 5 spells, and they are not listed in any particular order. First is Kamehameha for Pathfinder 2e. It doesn't have that name for obvious reasons. It's called Inner Radiance Torrent. This is a 2nd rank spell. That's Pathfinder 2e's word for spell levels, and it is in the Divine and Occult traditions. You have 3 actions on your turn in Pathfinder 2e and 1 reaction. You don't have different types like bonus actions. Nearly everything you do uses 1 or more actions, and we have spells like Inner Radiance Torrent that give you different options depending on how many actions you spend on the spell. So you use the same amount of your daily resources, a spell slot, for the casting. However, you need to decide in the moment whether you want to cast a more powerful version of that spell at the cost of doing other things on your turn, or a weaker version that frees up more actions. And Secrets of Magic introduces spells that have 2-round castings that you can power up over the course of 2 rounds. So let's read it. It is Kamehameha. You gradually manifest your spiritual energy into your cupped hands before firing a storm of bolts and beams. It does 4d4 force damage to all creatures in a 60-foot line. Creatures in the area must attempt a basic reflex save. Basic saves in Pathfinder 2e are shorthand for taking double damage when you critically fail on your saving throw, taking 0 damage when you critically succeed, and taking half damage when you regularly succeed. You critically succeed or critically fail when your roll is 10 or more or less than the target number. If a target critically fails their saving throw, they are also blinded for 1 round from this Kamehameha. And if your line passes through any area of magical darkness, it has a chance of counteracting that effect. You can spend 3 actions to lengthen the line to 120 feet. If you don't fire off the spell at that point, you can spend 3 more actions on the next round to do more damage. It adds 4d4 damage. And you enter a shining state for 1 minute, causing you to glow with light, and you deal 1 force damage to any creature that ends their turn adjacent to you. This all heightens as you increase the rank of your spell. And this is flagged for errata. It actually should scale at half the rate it currently does in order for it to scale appropriately. So spells like this give the spellcaster some interesting choices. You can spend 3 actions in order to cast this spell for a bigger effect, but if you don't have some other magical effect on you, you're going to be standing still in order to charge up that spell. And if you wait 2 rounds to fire off the spell, your area is only a single line, and the enemies will see you charging up something and may decide to scatter in order to avoid you having a devastating effect. So you'll want to talk to your party in order to do things to minimize that from happening. Speaking of, let's talk about this next spell. Is called Gravity Well. It is a 3rd rank spell in the arcane and occult traditions. It lets you create a sphere of altered gravity, 30-foot burst within 120 feet of you, and all creatures, friend and foe alike, and unsecured objects move towards the center of that area, and they make reflex saving throws in order to not be sucked in. If they fail, they move 15 feet towards the center. If they critically fail, they move 30 feet. If they succeed, but not critically succeed, they move only 5 feet. If they critically succeed, they don't move at all. Those creatures that are closer to the center of the sphere move first. But this is something you can do if one of your teammates is charging up Kamehameha to get more people into position. And by the way, I should mention too that a caster who has the haste spell cast on them has 1 free action per turn to do a weapon strike or a stride, the move action. So they can be more mobile while doing the 3 action version or the 2 round version of that spell. So you can basically coordinate your actions with spells like these. But there's other reasons you'll want to use this spell. Maybe you want your melee fighters to start their turn right next to the enemy, since movement costs 1 of your 3 actions in Pathfinder 2e. Maybe there's a chasm that separates the melee fighters of your party from the enemy, and you want them to close in. This brings them up against each other, either on your side of the chasm or on theirs. And this sphere can work in 3 dimensions. Maybe your enemies are on some higher cliff, and you want your entire party to effectively jump up. In this case, I would use Logan Bonner's house rule that he would endorse. He's one of the lead designers of Pathfinder 2e, where if you do an effect on an ally and they want to be affected by it, they can change the degree of success by 1 degree. I'll link to the How It's Played interview with Logan Bonner in the video description. This was another spell from Secrets of Magic, by the way. And so is this next one, Summon Kaiju. Yes, you can summon a Kaiju in Pathfinder 2e. It is a 10th rank spell. Yes, there are 10th rank spells in Pathfinder 2e. You attain them when you reach 19th level, and it is in the primal tradition only, so spellcasters like druids. You spend all 3 actions to do it, and it has a range of 500 feet. It is an incarnate spell. Incarnate spells were introduced in Secrets of Magic, and they are big flashy summoning spells that last 2 rounds that have a big flashy effect. It's either a group of creatures or a very spectacular single creature. In my opinion, it's easier to run than a number of summoning spells in D&D 5e, where you need to refer to monster stat blocks, you get to summon up to 16, even 32 versions of the same creature, and it gives the GM and that player a lot of things to resolve. These are also more thematically flexible and easier to control the balance of design-wise. Alright, so Summon Kaiju. You summon a gargantuan creature, which is a 4 square by 4 square size. And as an incarnate spell, it has an immediate effect right now, and at the end of your next turn, you don't have to spend any extra actions on it. At the end of your next turn, it can move, do a single move action, and then resolve its departure effect. And you get to choose when you cast the spell which of these kaiju you will summon, and that thematically makes you pretty awesome. So I'll quickly talk about some of these effects. Agmazar the Star Titan, when you summon this, it does void energy, or formerly called negative energy, to all enemies only within a big area, 100-foot emanation, and then it gets to move. And it does gravitic repulsion. Every enemy within 50 feet can be pushed 100 feet away. Agira the Forever Storm has 2 heads and shoots 2 1,200-foot lines of electricity. Anyone who fails their save becomes slowed 1. They lose 1 action for 1 round. And if they critically fail on their save, this lasts 1 minute, which is pretty devastating. When Agira departs, 100-foot emanation to do sonic damage, and they can be knocked prone. Bezravnus burrows through the ground and bursts out and can damage structures, and when they depart, they can create a web hurricane that binds creatures and slows them down significantly, a 20-foot circumstance penalty to all their speeds until they escape. Mogaru, the Final King, is Pathfinder's Godzilla. When he arrives, there's a burst of song that can stun all foes only, within 60 feet. If they fail their saving throw, they are stunned 3. They lose 3 actions on their next turn, and they cannot do any reactions immediately. When he departs, he does a 120-foot cone volcanic breath that does fire damage that can set them on fire, give persistent fire damage. Vorgozin, the Shapeless Feeder, disrupts magic, and any creature that's under a magical effect or who tries to cast a spell must do a saving throw or they become sickened 2. Basically a -2 status penalty on all of their checks, DCs, defenses. When she departs, she shoots a 1,200-foot beam of purest vitriol that does acid and bludgeoning damage. Yarthun, the moon grub, fires countless beams of cold energy to all creatures within 200 feet, and then when it departs, it creates a 100-foot burst of obscuring mist. Anyone who ends their turn in that area takes cold damage. Since you can decide which kaiju you summon when you cast this spell, it is an incredibly versatile spell, and as you can see, every effect can be very impactful. The next one is actually from the 2019 core rulebook. It is really cool. It is called Collective Transposition. It's a 6th rank spell in the arcane and occult traditions. You get to choose 2 creatures within 2 feet of you, and you get to move them to any other space within that 30-foot emanation from you. Unwilling creatures can attempt a will save, so you can target enemies with this and put them where you want. And interestingly, okay, if they fail their save, you, the caster, get to choose where they go. If they succeed, they're unaffected. However, if they critically succeed, they can jujitsu the spell and choose their destination. So it can actually backfire, which is really interesting and introduces some unpredictability to the spell. When you heighten the spell, you get to increase the number of targets by 1. So you can cast this as a 9th rank spell and move 5 creatures, and this can be, you can be one of the creatures, by the way, with this spell. So from what I said about Gravity Well earlier, you can see the possibilities here. It works within 3 dimensions. You get to move enemies where you want them to. You get to move wounded allies into safety. You get to get your big threat melee tank character right where you want them to be. There's a lot of things you can do with this spell. So I included this because of all of the tactical possibilities. And it is here that I want to do an honorable mention and mention a similar spell. And yes, I'm cheating. I'm doing a top 5 list and I'm cheating and adding a 6th one. What can I say? I do it all the time. This one is called Unexpected Transposition, also a 6th rank spell in the arcane and occult traditions. This is a reaction. When you are targeted with an enemy's strike, and strike is the keyword for any weapon, normal weapon attack or unarmed attack that a creature makes, then you can choose another creature within 30 feet that is different from the one attacking you and switch places with them right before the attack resolves. You can do this on a willing ally and it automatically succeeds, or you can take a risk and target an enemy. They get to do a saving throw, but if they fail, then you get to have your enemy's attack resolve against their own buddy. It is an amazing spell, and it's a fun one to use against player characters, by the way. If you have some boss, squishy boss that wants its minions to protect it, this is a nice surprise to pull. It does have a 1-minute cooldown, however. The caster can only benefit from this once per minute. And the last spell I'll mention is Roaring Applause, because of how effective it is and hilarious. It is a 3rd rank spell that is in the arcane, divine, and occult traditions, 2 actions, and you target a creature within 60 feet. And with a flamboyant flourish, you invoke such powerful feelings in your audience that you incite cheers and applause. They must be able to see, hear, or otherwise understand you. It also has the mental trait, so they need to be not immune to mental effects or mindless. They attempt a will save. If they succeed but don't critically succeed, they are mildly distracted by you and applaud when they're not fully occupied. That means they cannot use reactions. And there are some enemies that have very nasty reactions in this game, including what used to be called Attack of Opportunity, now called, after the remaster, Reactive Strike. This removes their ability to use reactions. And there are some other enemies that are even nastier, like the Hydra or the Merilith Demon, that have multiple reactions. This has that effect on them, negates one of their primary abilities when they succeed on their saving throw. When they fail on their saving throw, that effect happens to them. Plus, they are slowed 1. They lose an entire action every turn, applauding you vigorously. It's a manipulate action at the start of the target's turn. And this has the sustained duration. If you can land this on an enemy and sustain it, that means it's 1 more action you spend every subsequent turn. then they have lost an action for the entire battle. This does not work the way concentration works in D&D 5e. If you take damage while you have a spell like Roaring Applause in effect that needs to be sustained, you don't have to make an immediate Constitution saving throw. There's nothing to remember there. You just have to remember to proactively spend another action on it on your next turn. If this lands on a boss creature, you have reduced their power significantly. This also does not have the incapacitation trait, which is Pathfinder 2e's way of curbing the power of save or suck spells. It lets creatures that are higher level treat their saving throw as 1 degree of success better, basically. This does not have that, so it's a very strong spell that you can get at 3rd rank. When the target critically fails, they are so distracted that they are also fascinated with you. That means they cannot use concentrate actions unless you are involved in that action somehow. So if they are a spellcaster, if they want to cast a spell, which nearly all spells have the concentrate trait, they have to include you in some way. So a nice little additional effect. And when you heighten this spell to 6th rank, you can target up to 10 creatures. You get an instant audience for your awesomeness. And it's pretty widely applicable. Any creature that can be affected by mental effects, things like a gibbering mouther, you can have applauding for you with this spell. And that's it. Short and sweet. This is my low effort arc. If you have other spells you want to bring up, definitely leave them in the comments and include a link to the spell so that other people can see it. I'd like to see what the community finds as well. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of all the spells, and maybe you'll give me ideas for future videos where I highlight some cool things in the system. Also, some of you may be interested in one of the videos I did before called How to Cast True Good, when the Pathfinder online subreddit exploded over fear that Pathfinder's designers were nerfing spellcasters. One of the videos I did was how to caster good to optimize playing a caster. So yeah, support my Patreon. It helps me make this channel, and you get early access ad-free to many of my videos and exclusive content. And if you haven't yet, join my Discord community. We're now over 5,000 people strong. We talk Pathfinder 2e and other gaming. And if you want to play Pathfinder 2e, we have a drop-in, drop-out organized play system called Endless Tale Tavern. You can find that there. So that's it. I have been Ronald the Rules Lawyer. I'll see you next time.